Did you ever wonder why travelers on the Oregon Trail took the route they did? Why didn't they just head straight west or straight northwest, depending on whether they're going to California or Oregon as their destination? Merrill Mattis, one of the founders of the Oregon-California Trails Association, was also a famed National Park Service historian, longtime custodian of Scottsbluff National Monument. He referred to this corridor as the Great Platte River Road. It served not only immigrants heading for Oregon, but also pioneers en route to the California goldfields, Mormons traveling to Utah, and Pony Express riders carrying mail between St. Joseph, Missouri and Sacramento, California. Hi, I'm Richard Hunt. I'm with OCTA, the Oregon-California Trail Association. Welcome to California. Well, welcome to California Hill and California Crossing. But we're not actually in California. This is southwest Nebraska, along the Oregon-California Trail. I'm standing along US Highway 30. This is the Lincoln Highway. It was the first U.S. transcontinental highway, and we're just west of Brule, Nebraska. Behind me, you can see multiple historic markers. These note some of the famous trail and transportation routes that came through this area. Well, today we're going to see some territory that helps to answer that question. To begin with, there was no GPS, no Google Maps, just the historical routes first traveled by Native Americans and then by fur traders. And these routes often followed existing game trails. Without the ability to shape the contour of the land with machinery and engineering, the preferred route was the path of least resistance versus distance traveled. Deep rivers many times had no bridges, ferries, or even rocky bottoms to allow a river to be forded. Top-heavy wagons with iron wheels pulled by a yoke of oxen were forced to take routes that don't necessarily make sense to our modern eyes. The way west was, however, dictated by one key topographical feature: South Pass, the natural opening that allowed for a crossing with wagons and oxen across the Continental Divide. So, to begin our exploration, let's first go down to the South Platte River, where we can see the river called a mile wide and an inch deep. This is the South Platte River. After departing Independence on the Oregon and California trails, the immigrants traveled approximately 500 miles until they reached the south bank of the South Platte River in Nebraska. In this area, there are two Platte Rivers that eventually merge at the modern city of North Platte, Nebraska. The South Platte originates in the Colorado Mountains, flowing northeast through modern-day Denver, while the North Platte begins in the Colorado Mountains south of Casper, Wyoming. To continue their westward journeys towards South Pass, the travelers needed to cross the South Platte, and typically they would follow the south bank of the North Platte until they crossed it near Casper. Although the South Platte had a shallow depth, its sandy bottom presented a significant obstacle for heavy wagons. Quicksand, swift currents, they caused accidents, drownings, and deaths due to exposure. We're here in late May, around the same time when the immigrants would have crossed. Nebraska presented immigrants with both rivers and hills. Before arriving in Nebraska, those coming from Independence had already crossed two different Big Blue rivers, the Kaw, or the Kansas, at today's Topeka, and smaller streams, such as the Black and Red Vermilion rivers. Now, let's go find that hill. This is the base of California Hill. For immigrants, this was the very first big hill they encountered on their journey west. Although truthfully, it's only about a 240-foot rise over 1.5 miles. However, for oxen and wagons with narrow iron-rimmed wheels, it was an endeavor to climb. Looking up the hill, it's easy to see the prominent trail ruts from wagon hills that are still visible for most of the uphill climb. After reaching the top of the hill, they had traveled across miles of flat prairie before descending into Ash Hollow on the south bank of the North Platte River. Their descent was at Windlass Hill, a name derived from the belief that a windlass was necessary to safely descend, although no evidence supports the existence of an actual windlass that was ever used there. Men and women would hold on to ropes to slow the wagons during the descent of the steep hill. California Hill, fortunately, has been preserved for all of us, that we can come visit. The site was generously gifted to the Oregon-California Trails Association and subsequently passed on to the Nebraska State Historical Society. This is truly magnificent trail history that is here today due to the efforts of concerned preservationists and trail enthusiasts. To learn more about this type of trail history, check out the Oregon-California Trails Association and discover yourself and your trail here